You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. I'm Dashen, Usman. The top stories this hour. Federal government opens IDP camps as flood submerges 70% of Maiduguri. Nigerian army says notorious bandit Bello Turji will be captured soon. Airport workers in Kenya down tools over new deal. Details shortly. News Central now at this hour begins with the latest update on the flood situation in Maiduguri. National Emergency Management Agency says Borno State government's efforts to relocate displaced residents are ongoing. This was revealed by the spokesperson, Manzo Ezekiel, who added that 3 internally displaced people's camp had been open to accommodate those affected. Thousands have been displaced and 3 inmates recaptured after a jailbreak as Borno State faces its worst flood disaster in 30 years. The flood has submerged 70% of Maiduguri, including key locations like the Shehu of Borno's Palace, the State Secretariat, and the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital. President Bola Tinubu, currently abroad, has called for the immediate evacuation of residents from flood-affected areas. The National Emergency Management Agency attributes the flooding to an overflow at Alau Dam following heavy rains. NEMA spokesperson Manzo Ezekiel stated that about 70% of Maiduguri is underwater, with many residents waking up trapped by rising waters. Emergency services are now focused on rescue operations and providing support. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has assured that the federal government will prioritize the welfare of the affected communities in Borno following the severity of the floods in Maiduguri, describing it as the most catastrophic in over 3 decades in the state capital. The Vice President, Mr. Shettima, stated this on Tuesday during an on-the-spot assessment of the ravaging floods in Maiduguri, Borno State. Now, this comes as residents of Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, are now desperately calling for help from the government as the flood waters have displaced thousands. Details in this report.
Thousands of residents in Maiduguri, Borno State capital, and parts of Jere local government area are now stranded. Their homes, schools, and businesses overtaken by floods. The collapse of the dike and overflow of the Alau Dam, which is about 10 kilometers away from Maiduguri metropolis, is what has led to the displacement of the residents. After the secretary to the Borno State government, Bukari Tijani, led a delegation to assess the situation of the dam last week, he assured the general public that there was no cause for alarm as measures would be taken to mitigate any disaster. Sadly, the reverse was the case as flood waters started flowing into town from Monday. The flooding has since affected major areas like Shehu's Palace, Monday Market, Post Office area, Gwange Moromoro Customs Bridge, and the zoo, amongst others. In an on-the-ground assessment of the devastating floods that have swept through the state, Vice President Kashim Shettima, who arrived Maiduguri on Tuesday, expressed deep concerns over the situation and has directed relevant government agencies to provide immediate relief to the affected communities.
Inshallah, za mu hada karfi da karfe. Ita Borno State government, da federal government, da NEMA, the National Refugees Commission, inshallah, the North East Development Commission, zamu dauki duk matakan da ya cancanta a dauka a share hawayenku. Akwai hakkinku a kanmu, kuma hakkinku nan shine mu ga cewa mun tallafa muku. Kuma ba siyasa ba, gaskiya zamu ga muku duk abin da ya cancanta a yi zamu yi don mu share hawayenku. Muna muku godiya bisa ga halayen dattaku da kun nuna. Ba wanda yake ihuwa nan, ba wanda yake zage-zage. Kun yi imani cewa wannan masifan daga Ubangiji ne, kuma insha Allah Allah zai share hawaye.
Residents of various communities have since been advised by the police to avoid flooding routes and stay in safer areas, as the police and other relevant government agencies are doing everything possible to ensure safety of lives and property.
In the meantime, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency has forecast thunderstorms and rains across the country from Wednesday to Friday. On Wednesday morning, thunderstorms are expected in parts of Borno, Adamawa, Taraba, Yobe, Katsina, Sokoto, and Kaduna states. The northern region will see continued thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening, affecting Kano, Borno, Katsina, Adamawa, Kaduna, Taraba, Zamfara, Kebbi, and Jigawa states. NIMET also warns of thunderstorms in Oyo, Osun, Ekiti, Ogun, Ondo, Lagos, Edo, Delta, Cross River, and Akwa Ibom states on Wednesday morning. Intermittent rains are predicted later in the day for Enugu, Ebonyi, Abia, Anambra, Edo, Ekiti, Oyo, Rivers, Cross River, Delta, and Akwa Ibom states. Away from that, let's now tell you that the Nigerian government has dismissed claims that the arrest and questioning of Nigeria Labour Congress President Joe Ajaero constitutes human rights abuses. Presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga stated that the accusations from the Trades Union Congress UK are unfounded and misinterpret the situation. He emphasized that President Bola Tinubu, a pro-democracy activist, remains committed to protecting civil liberties. Ononuga urged the public to allow security agencies to conduct their work without interference, noting that Ajaero's invitation by the Department of State Services is unrelated to his role at the NLC. The government also highlighted that while labor unions and the government may disagree, there is no adversarial relationship between them. To discuss this, we're joined by a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Towo Oseruoja. He joins us from the United Kingdom. Hello, Towo. Thank you for joining us at this time.
You're welcome, and good afternoon.
All right, now looking at the whole incident, was the arrest and questioning of Joe Ajaero carried out in accordance with the Nigerian law? Were there proper procedures being followed? Were his rights respected during the process?
Well, when you talk about if it is followed with proper procedure, we need to be fair to both parties, because there was no video clip that shows that he was manhandled. But let me first of all state the procedures that need to be followed when an arrest or an alleged crime has been committed. If you look at Section 3 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which governs the gateway of the criminal justice system, it said when somebody is suspected to have committed an offense or alleged to have committed an offense, the first point of call is an arrest. So the arrest can take a form of one, basically inviting the person or going to the person and stating the reason why the person is arrested. Then the second point of call is investigation. The investigation, they can say, okay, go for the main time while we investigate, because you must hear from both parties. Then the other one, if there is a substantial proof of the alleged offense, they will now go to framing a charge or bringing a charge before the court. Then the fourth part of it is the trial, and if he's found guilty, or if he's found not guilty, will be discharged and acquitted. But if he's found guilty, it goes to the fifth aspect of it, which is the sentencing. That will be the judgment and sentencing. So, but if you look at it from a broader perspective of this one in question, you discover that Ajaero has been the subject of, should I say, security agencies' seriousness, because the police invited him. He has been invited by the police on whatever they believe is an offense or whatever they believe he has committed. Then the DSS, which is the State Security Service, popularly known as the Department of State Service, picking him at the airport again is something of concern, which the watchers of the fundamental rights of every Nigerian should be really concerned.
So would you say that, his arrest, and the reasons for detention and the nature of investigation, was made transparent by the government? Well,
it's something it's not actually made transparent, because up to this point, the DSS had not told Nigerians the reason why he was arrested, and neither Ajero has informed Nigerians the reason why he was arrested. Neither is counsel. So it's like a two-edged sword, whereby both parties knows. In short, Nigerians are the ones on trial now. Nigerians are the ones on dark over what transpired, because I've carefully tried to wait to see Ajero coming out to say, okay, why this is the reason why I was arrested. But arresting a citizen by state security service is not an issue, because it's part of the gateway of the administration of criminal justice system. But the mood and method of the arrest is something that is subject to if fundamental right is existing. So it's left for Ajero to tell us the reason why he's arrested, the purpose of the questioning, because constitutionally he was not kept beyond the 24 hours as a reasonable time as stipulated by the Constitution. Then DSS will also in any way, because I don't think if DSS want to classify this as a secret process or official secret, it cannot classify it as official secret with the advent of the Freedom of Information Act of 2011.
Okay.
So we need that clarification from both parties.
So, Tawa, but how would you describe the relationship between the Nigerian government and the labor union movement? Would you say that there are some underlying tensions or disagreements that may have contributed to the recent incident?
Yes, I think I will agree with the fact that there are underlying issues between the Labour Congress and the leader with the president. And this is the time the president needs to come out straight to tell Nigerians, because for the police, we excuse the hand of the president. But if you look at the attitude of the state security services, which is popularly known as DSS, if you look at the law establishing them, they are, and I think if you look at Section 2, Section 2, subsection 3, paragraph, subsection 4 gives the president the power, subsection 3, paragraph C of that particular law that established the state security service is within the ambit of the president to determine their characters and their attitude to dissenting voice in the society. So you could see that the Labour Congress expressed concern over the rumored hike of the petroleum product. So I believe, and any reasonable Nigerian would believe that that may be the cause of the action of the State Security Service, DSS.
All right, well, thank you so much, Tawa, for taking time out to speak to us on this.
You are welcome.
Moving away from that, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has granted the End Bad Governance protesters who have been charged with treason bail. The presiding judge, Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court, granted the accused bail in the sum of 10 million naira. The defenders have been moved to the Kuje Correctional Facility pending the fulfillment of their bail conditions. Our correspondent, Joshua Imarayi, was at the court and will update us with more information. All right, now we will connect with our correspondent, Joshua Imarayi, who is standing by at the courts in the Federal Capital Territory. Hello, Joshua. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Well,
all right, so please go ahead.
Ruling on the bail application of the 10 End Bad Governance protesters was delivered by his Honorable Justice Emeka Nwite at the Federal High Court here in Abuja. And on his ruling, he granted the 10 bail applicants bail of a sum of 10 million naira with a surety of like sum, one each for the 10 protesters. And he specifically said that these persons who applied for bail are to desist from any gathering or any rally that might cast an aspersion on their image. And according to what the justice said that those who are standing as sureties for these bail applicants must have a property around the area of jurisdiction of the Federal High Court in Abuja, that is the FCT, and they are to tender such document with the registrar of the court. And the justice explicitly ordered the defendants to tender their traveling documents as well as maintain constant communication with the court, hence that they will be needed at any particular time for the ruling. And for the trial dates, the Justice Emeka Nwite designated the 27th of September for the ruling of the trial, for the trial to commence at the Federal High Court here in Abuja.
All right, so what is the feeling like, with the defendants and their counselors or counsels, considering that, they might see this as a victory over government?
Well, the defendants are ecstatic and the morale is high. They are happy concerning the ruling. They see this as a case of justice triumphing over all odds in the Federal Capital Territory here, and they said it is a step ahead to ensure a saner society. But one specific case that arose in the court was where one of the counsels to the defendant, that is Matthias Abubakar, who specifically said that some persons are being held, aside existing persons that have been granted bail, some persons are being held across one correctional facility in the country or the other, and he prayed the court to extend the bail applications to them. But the Justice Emeka Nwite explicitly told him that this case has not been brought before the court, that the only case the court has jurisdiction over is the case of the 10 persons who were granted bail today. And he also prayed the court, that is the counsel to the defendant, also prayed the court that the prosecutor should provide all evidence as to the prosecution before the date of the trial to enable them prepare better for the trial. Then the Justice Emeka Nwite told them that this is the standard practice and it will be adhered to by the prosecuting counsel.
All right, well, thank you so much, Joshua, for that update. It's time for a break now. When we return, we'll tell you why NNPC may not lift Dangote petrol on Sunday. We'll tell you more after the break. Join us again. As the September 15, 2024 date approaches for the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to begin lifting petrol from Dangote refinery, investigations reveal no commercial agreement has been finalized. Despite NNPC Executive Vice President Adedakpo Shegun's announcement on September 5 that the company will start lifting petrol on September 15, sources from both NNPC and Dangote confirmed that key terms, including quantity and pricing, remain unresolved. Government sources and a senior Dangote refinery official revealed that no agreements or paperwork have been completed, raising doubts about whether NNPC will lift any petrol on the scheduled date. Meanwhile, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has vowed to capture notorious terrorist leader Bello Turji soon. Speaking in Abuja on Tuesday, General Musa declared that Turji's capture is imminent. He addressed reports of Turji imposing levies on communities, assuring that the military, in coordination with the other security agencies and state authorities, is working to protect citizens. General Musa urged community cooperation, emphasizing that public support is crucial to defeat the terrorists. He stressed the informants within the communities hinder military operations and warned against aiding the terrorists. He also assured Nigerians that the armed forces remain committed to restoring peace and normalcy across the country. Staying with security matters, the Anambra State Police Command has said it is on the hunt for the killers of 4 men in the Aguisoye community located on the boundaries of Enugu and Nofia in Njikoka community, that's local government area of Anambra State. On Monday, the yet-to-be-identified assailants attacked the community, killing no fewer than 4 persons and injuring several others. The killings allegedly occurred when the assailants invited some indigents of the community to a piece of land, pretending to be interested in buying the said land. The armed men opened fire on them, killing 4 persons instantly, while others escaped with injuries. The incident created panic in the community as people scampered to safety, causing injuries due to the gunshots fired by the armed men. It is reported that there has been recurring farmland disputes and issues bordering on land grabbing between the 2 communities over the years. Hundreds of internally displaced persons from over 300 communities in Sokoto State have abandoned their villages to bandits and terrorists in the Isa and Sabon Birni local government areas of the state. The community members who are now displaced are currently taking refuge in government primary and secondary school buildings within the two local government areas of the state. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Frustration, hunger, and hopelessness are clearly visible on the faces of these internally displaced persons. Many of them recently displaced from hundreds of villages within the Sokoto East Senatorial District. Sabon Birni, though mourning the recent murder of its emir by these marauding bandits, has however become a home of the refuge for all.
ta share magobir hawayenta wagga masarauta ta gobir ta ƙara ɗaukaka ta ga idon duniya saboda yanzu gobir ta shiga cikin idon duniya.
Akwai wasu makwabta na nan yanayin ma samun aurtala suka kama suka yi mata walakanci jiya cikin dare suka shigo garin ga suna nan murar tarihi in ma kuna so da aika suna nan sun yi su 100 kullun cikin abin da ake kenan kullun yanzu haka akwai yaro guda da ta ji wallahi suna cin sun kame shi. Nunan ne gwamnati ta ki kula da mu koyo su cikin bane suka kuma muna ji mai abu kuma yanzu ba ai ba don Allah muna son gwamnati taimaka mana don Allah ta taimaka mana.
This is Abdul Ahmed Model Primary School here in Sabon Birni, the refuge home of internally displaced persons. Surrounding me here are a lot of internally displaced persons from different villages across Sabon Birni local government who were sent away by bandits, you know, to come here and take refuge. I'm one of the IDPs who's going to give us the story. Nanka dede? Yes, Nanka.
Sunana Ridwan.
Ridwan, me kake yana?
Zaman gudun hijira nake yi.
Me faru?
Bandit sun takura muna a ƙauyen mu, ba mu da kwanciyar hankali, matayen mu da yaran mu da mazajen mu duk muna cikin wannan makaranta. Ko da an koma hutu a nan wurin ba za mu samu damar barin nan ba tunda idan mun bar nan babu inda za mu je.
Many of the IDPs have their own unique story of starvation, hunger and sickness.
Gab da mana mun sassabe za mu shibka sun kace sun ba su naira 100 miliyan 250. Ba mu da su suka ba su mun kace ba mu da su suka zo suka kawo mana farmaki sun haka shi mun mutum 7 to mu tashi hankali yayin mana yawa mu haga zaman mu wurin nan akwai hadari shine mun ka taso mun ka dawo nan ne ko duk da haka nan ba su bar mu ba sai su tare hanya suna daukan mutanen mu suna aza mana kudin fansa yau an waye gari ba mu fanso mutanen mu.
With women and children being the most affected in the crisis, the same is visible at the camp.
Wanda ka faruwa gashi kayan masa su hana mu je mu doko ko da abinci ga yunwa ta dami mu ga yara ba lahiya mu ma ba lahiya duk zaman da muka walakanci muke.
Rayu suka koro mu sun hana mu zama sun kashe mu maza sun kashe mu ɗaya sun hana mu zama kuma yunwa ta sha mu ka abinda za mu bida mu sun koro mu sun hana mu mu bide shi.
While the situation is there and can be regarded as a humanitarian disaster, many here will be hoping that the government comes to their aid and as quick as possible. In Sabon Birni, Sokoto State, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Nigeria's Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has tasked newly promoted senior officers in the force to be proactive and ensure constructive engagement with the public to win back their trust. This was as the IGP decorated 8 Assistant Inspector Generals and 15 Commissioners of Police who are among 658 officers elevated to their next rank in the force. Egbetokun urged the officers to ensure that their leadership style in their new role inspires others within the force and tasked them to be open to innovations that can help combat crime.
Your leadership must inspire professionalism and discipline within the force. As senior officers, you must set standards, and it is your responsibility to ensure that those under your command adhere to them. From your conduct in public to your interactions with junior officers, you must exemplify the highest standards of professional behavior. The relationship between the police and the communities we serve is built on trust. To maintain and strengthen that trust, you must engage with the public proactively and positively.
Away from that, the Coalition for Good Governance have raised concerns about threats to democracy and national security. The CGG expressed alarm over attempts to undermine democratic institutions and called on Nigerians to remain vigilant and resist divisive tactics. At a press conference in Lagos, the CGG discussed issues bordering on fuel scarcity and lack of transparency regarding the cost of production of PMS per litre, the arrest of Mr. Joe Ajero, president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, amongst others.
We call on NNPCL to remain focused on its mandate and resist any politically motivated distractions. 2, we demand that the Dangote refinery disclose the actual cost of PMS production per litre at its refinery for the purpose of transparency and accountability. 3, we insist that Mr. Ajero and the NSC refrain from using the Nigerian workers' platform to jeopardize national security and instead cooperate fully with the law enforcement agencies and focus on its mandate to ensure a better welfare for Nigerian workers. Together, let us safeguard our democracy, promote accountability, and work towards a brighter future for all Nigerians.
Ahead of the upcoming elections, that's the governorship election in Edo State, a coalition of civil society organizations have raised an alarm over the threat to peaceful and credible poll in the state. The coalition spoke to newsmen in Abuja, saying that a sinister plot has been uncovered by some politicians to instigate chaos using violence in order to stop registered voters from taking part in the poll. News Central's Joshua Imarai tells us more.
The Transition Monitoring Group, a coalition of human rights and civil society organizations in Nigeria, has raised an alarm over plans to scuttle the upcoming governorship election holding in Edo State. The group, while speaking to newsmen, warned that the plans to derail the electoral process is also aimed at eroding citizens' trust and compromising the integrity of the poll.
To put it very mildly, the party primaries of the political parties were just merely a selection of candidates by party big wings. Regrettably, when all the political parties comprise their choices, it means that the electorate will not have any better choices but to choose from the wrong people who emerge through compromise processes.
The group also criticized the conduct of party primaries in the state, saying that they fell short of democratic standards with candidates handpicked by party leaders instead of being chosen through a free and fair process.
There has been instances of political parties' intolerance and violence, including inter-party conflicts ahead of the election. There have also been reports of destruction of campaign materials and personal properties by suspected political opponents. The recruitment and deployment of thugs to intimidate and harass non-supporters of certain political parties are highly undemocratic and condemnable.
The group, however, urged electoral officials to maintain the highest standards of integrity during the conduct of the election and called on security agencies to prevent attempts by unruly elements to disrupt the electoral process in the state. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imalai.
The National Oil Spillage Detection and Response Agency has reaffirmed its commitment to ensure the implementation of the federal government's directives regarding the personnel management system across the civil service of the Federation. The Chief Security Officer of the agency made this known during a 2-day workshop focused on the implementation of the performance management system. He says that the system is a mechanism that holds individual employees accountable, identifies and dictates who, where and how faults in the delivery of service to the public occur in the civil service.
Other vital components of PMS include annual performance management timeline, performance management cycle, performance planning, performance review, and performance regards. Detailed provisions of these components are set in Rules 05031 to 050405. As a critical agency of the Federal Ministry of Environment, with a clear statutory mandate for the protection of our environment, all our staff must be ready and able to avail themselves of the value of the requirements of PMS as the framework for determining their competencies.
It's important that we key into this key deliverable performance management system. This is a pillar. PMS is a pillar of FC. In line with that, the head of service of the Federation has given that mandate for all ministries and agencies to implement it. And there's also an assessment along that line.
Coming up in a moment, death toll rises to 6 in Algeria's southern region. We'll bring you details after the break. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. The Commission for Gender Equality is hosting a conference in Johannesburg to assess the strides, constraints and challenges that remain a hindrance to the attainment of gender equality in the country since the advent of democracy. As per its legislative mandate, the Commission is obligated to help strengthen and deepen democracy to ensure a society free from all forms of gender oppression and inequality. The aim of the conference is to reflect on progress made towards the attainment of gender equality during the 3 decades of democracy in South Africa. The conference will also chart a path forward to advance gender equality. News Central's Bongani Siziba is at the conference. Let's hear from her.
Good morning, Dashen, and also good morning to our viewers. Yes, like you have rightfully said, this conference is looking at the strides that South Africa has gone so far, especially 3 decades into the democracy. And this conference have stakeholders that are coming together just to have that discussion, to see where they are at the moment, and also have that conversation. We know that when it comes to gender equality, women are always underlooked, and many women, they feel that when it comes to gender equality, they are not given that space, especially at our workplaces. But let me just bring in Javu Baloy, spokesperson for Commission of the Gender Equality, just to tell us more about this conference and also the strides that South Africa has gone through. Good morning, Javu, and thank you for joining us here at News Central TV. This conference means a lot, especially for the women and also the gender equality in South Africa. How far we have gone.
Greetings to the viewers. As a Commission for Gender Equality, we feel this conference is long overdue. We should have held it at the beginning of April or maybe August to look at what are the challenges and the constraints. We're not doing so well, but we have made some strides. Insofar as gender equality, gender parity, and gender equity is concerned in the country, you'll find that most of the companies, not only in government, are still male-headed. There's a lot of gender-based violence and femicide in the country that needs the dismantling of the patriarchal mentality, stereotypes, norms, and values that are an impediment towards the attainment of gender equality. South Africa is a beacon of hope for many in the world, insofar as our one of the best, we have got one of the best constitutions in the world. But we're still lagging behind in some of the countries like Senegal and Rwanda, insofar as gender parity is concerned. Kenya, even, they've got a system of zebra crossing where if a head is a male, the second in charge it's a female. So those are the strides, and we endeavor as a commission to create a society where it's free of gender inequality and oppression, and also ensure that there's conducive environment where a woman, a girl child, and an elderly person, a person with disability, an LGBTQIA plus community person should not be discriminated on the basis of sexual orientation, on the basis of their gender, or the basis of their sex. So that's what we're looking at in today and tomorrow. We're taking stock of the milestone that we have made. Yes, we have got women voices out there. We are deputy president. We have got women being CEOs of the industries. But it's not enough, because most of the women in the country are the ones that are voting. Most of the women here in South Africa, they are not in the position of authority where they drive the narrative. So that's why the Gender Commission is calling on our various stakeholders to meet with us to say, let's chant the way forward in order to arrive where we want our destination.
What are some of the legislative mandates that the Commission is obligated, especially to look at how the society can be free in all forms of gender oppression?
The Commission has got a broad mandate, and I'm glad you have asked that profound question. As much as we have got a broad mandate, we are not the implementers of the recommendations that the Commission come with. We have got duty bearers that are supposed to be, that's government, that's a civil society. The Commission has got recommendations, yet we have got the Supreme Court of Appeal judgment which says our recommendations are not binding, and that makes it throw the span in the work. Hence, we are going to the Constitutional Court to say the mandate, the legislative mandate of the Commission need to be looked. We need clarity to say if we hold people accountable, what are the recourse that were there? But yet we understand through our legal people, the head of the Commission, Dr. Dennis Matotoga, to say we can go to court in order for certain things to be implemented. We recently launched a report on barriers towards the access of communal land by women, and one on forced sterilization that the Department of Health has complied with the report. So it then begs the question that those that are not implementing the recommendation, yet they're saying we welcome the reports from the Commission. We are going to launch 15 reports very soon. We have launched 2, or there were 17, and all those things are it's indictment to the duty bearers. We are having something called accountability dialogue. Ours is not a talk show. It's a talk show whereby we just talk things out. People now are coming to the Commission. People are transforming. Even universities are transforming. Remember, universities have arrived with issues of sexual harassment of the girl child and boy child being molested, and also teenage pregnancy in the country. So we want the duty bearers, Department of Education, Department of Health, and also South Africans to take heed of these issues. We produce wonderful reports, but someone must take them through, and we are monitoring those reports. Even we are going to monitor even the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disability. Where are they with the National Council of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, so that tomorrow we arrest the scourge of gender-based violence. We arrest even institutions like Johannesburg Stock Exchange companies. We have called them to come in, mining companies, captain of the industries. We need to make sure that they give us evidence of what are the transformative agenda in their workplace.
Thank you so much, Jabu. That was Jabu, the spokesperson for Gender Commission Equality, speaking to us about the strides that South Africa has taken, especially when you look at the gender equalities and looking at that the society is free for all, for boy child and girl child, and also looking at those strides and challenges that South Africa is going through and what should be done. It's back to you in the studio, Dashen.
Thank you, Bongani, for that. Now we move up north, where Algerian civil defense officials have reported that 6 people have died due to recent flooding in the country's south. Local media confirmed Tuesday that the bodies of 4 victims aged 10 to 59 were found in Tamanseret, Nama and Becher provinces, adding to the 2 fatalities reported since Friday. Heavy rainfall and severe flooding have impacted multiple areas, and authorities have successfully rescued several trapped families. The affected regions in southern Algeria, along with parts of Morocco, where at least 18 deaths have been reported, are typically arid and not accustomed to such extreme weather. In other news from around the world, Kamala Harris went on the offensive against Donald Trump in a fiery televised debate, getting under her rival's skin as they battled for a breakthrough in an agonizingly close election. The Democrat clashed with the extreme Republican on hot-button issues from abortion to democracy and accused him of being a friend to dictators. Trump repeatedly raised his voice as he hit back at the vice president on immigration and the economy, branding her a Marxist and blaming her for what he said were the failings of President Joe Biden's administration. The former president claimed after that The clash in Philadelphia was his best debate, while Harris's campaign also claimed victory and challenged him to a second debate in October.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that.
She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population.
And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing...
For more on this, I'm joined by international correspondent Afia Hagen, and we're also joined by Etse Sikanku, special correspondent and associate professor, journalism, UNIMAC Ghana. He joins us from Iowa City, USA. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Thank you very much.
Let me begin with you, Afia. Now, everyone will want to know who won the debate between Trump and Harris.
And that really is the question. Look, to define a winner, the winner is the one who has the viewer believing that they were the best person, that they had the authority and the credibility. And a snap poll that was taken just after the election, just after the debate, shows that 67% of those polled just after the debate thought that Harris had the advantage. Now, in the spin room, from people who I've spoken to who were in the spin room last night, the vibes, as it were that Harris really took the fight to Trump, managed to get under his skin, and this wasn't his best debate performance. He wasn't the Trump that we saw that was debating against Joe Biden, where he clearly won. He didn't lean into the moments where he could talk about immigration and talk about things that he has done that were positive. It was more about personal attacks. So it seems that Harris came out the victor. She did manage to get under Trump's skin, and he ended up repeating conspiracy theories and not really setting out his stall in the way that his team and the campaign would have wanted him to do.
Right, so what were some of the standout moments from the debate? Afia, still on you.
Yeah, there was quite a few standout moments from the debate. Donald Trump insisted they had nothing to do with this Project 2025, which is this kind of blueprint that we keep hearing that would have dangerous Republican policies within it. Now, both candidates clashed over reproductive rights, with Trump saying that babies would be executed under certain laws, and moderators had to fact check him on that. Kamala Harris invited voters to go to a Trump rally to see people leave due to exhaustion and boredom. Moderators were forced to step in again when Donald Trump repeated a debunked myth about immigrants eating pets. Mr. Trump also referred to his assassination attempt, saying that he probably took a bullet to the head because of Democrats weaponizing him. And Miss Harris, also told Trump that Vladimir Putin would eat him for lunch.
You, Etse, you witnessed the debate. So what do you make of this debate, and what were your standout, moments?
Thank you very much. This was a very critical and important part of the presidential race because it was the first time that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris were going to meet. For Kamala Harris, she had just been nominated as the Democratic standard bearer. And so it was important. We all do know the context within which she was appointed within a very short time after Joe Biden had stepped down. She did not go through a primary, as is the conventional process. And so she is one of the few presidential candidates in modern history to have such a short time to put her campaign together. She's basically crafting this campaign on the fly. And so it was a very important time for her to reintroduce herself to the American people, for her to establish her credibility, for her to convince a lot of people of her viability and her substantiveness in the election. One of the things that came out of the convention and out of the race so far is that a lot of people say, well, they do like her personal story, but they are waiting to hear more details on her policy and her programs. This was an important moment for Kamala Harris to establish her presidentialness within the psyche of the American people. I do think that she achieved that particular indicator. She looked very presidential. At least she met the presidential bar. Her temperament was very calm and collected. She did not buy into those tropes of an angry black woman. She was able to rise above the tide. And most importantly, she was able to take the fight to Donald Trump as and when she deemed it necessary. Her strongest moment was during the period she was talking about abortion rights and the freedom of females to choose what to do with their bodies. She was also very strong when it came to her prosecutorial record as well. Very eloquent and very, very well prepared. If there's one thing we can take away, it was that Kamala Harris really prepared for this debate and came in with a strategy, came in with a plan and executed it. But on the side of Donald Trump, one of the things we have to realize is that Donald Trump never backs down from a fight. Many people do say that Kamala Harris baited him. But we have to recognize that in a debate, you are speaking to constituencies. You are not just speaking to yourself. And for Donald Trump's constituency, what I would say is that he fed them red meat. He was able to double down on a lot of issues, never apologized for January 6th. He did not back down on his comments on racism. He did not back down on his comments on immigration, saying that certain immigrants were eating the cats and the pets of people in America. He was very, very aggressive as he was. And I do think there are concerns about the civility and the intemperate nature of the language that is in the debate. One of the concerns that you would realize from this American debate was the level of viciousness and the level of polarization that existed in the political discourse that we saw in the debate. So Trump did not back down either and sought to have the very last words in this particular debate. Debates are defined by moments, and each presidential candidate has to leave the debate with a moment that makes an imprint on the mind of the audiences. For many audiences, this moment came when Kamala Harris was able to tell Donald Trump that he was a disgrace. He was able to call out Donald Trump on certain issues directly by looking out to his face. At a point, she said, "I am not Joe Biden." Those were really strong moments for Kamala Harris.
Exactly. I seem to remember when he also said that she didn't have a plan and she was dependent on Joe Biden's plans. But sorry.
Just to wrap up, and for Donald Trump, just to be fair, to balance it out, Donald Trump also had his moments, some of them quite nasty, but for the people who support him, this is the kind of rhetoric he has always used and to persuade his own voters.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that comprehensive perspective, Etse. We appreciate you for your time. And thank you so much, Afi, as well, for sticking around. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that federal government opens IDP camps as flood submerges 70% of Maiduguri. We also told you that Nigerian army says notorious bandits Bello Turji will be captured soon. Finally, you heard that airport workers in Kenya down tools over new deal. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen. Usman.